Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You are on or watching RPGs with DBJ. Of course, you don't see my face, and the reason for that is because we are going to do a half page through half talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is the third pillar of gaming. That's using the environment exploration. The third pillar are your traps and puzzles and obstacles and all that kind of thing. So it's my personal passion, and it is the thing that I actually write about. So someone suggested to me that we do volcanoes and the region in and around volcanoes. So of course you don't see my face. If you are, good morning there, Vince. You don't see my face. It's just because I'm screen sharing. I'm screen sharing a document essentially. And of course, on the side, we have the chat because I need to keep track of anyone and everything. Yeah, it's a distract you the whole time when you get through the book. It's not a big deal. But um, if I'm not mistaken, I may have done this book before. So really just going to focus on like using the environment, some of the dangers, that are inherent in it, how you can use them in the game, because I think it's really underutilized. And the thought processes that I go through when thinking about using the environment, and maybe, just maybe, um, you guys out there will go like, "Oh, I forgot about this part. I forgot about using that," and some things. So the if you are familiar uh, with this channel in any way, you know that we go off on a deep end, right? We deep dive into subjects, we go off on tangents and all those kind of things. And that's just because of the total mental exercise. It's coming up with ideas, and even if they're dumb, even if they don't go anywhere, it's the process of working through it. Now, of course, when you're doing it live, you do it for an hour, hint 2 hours of streams. The thing is that a lot of those are chaotic ideas. So then you have to narrow them down, get them written out, get them to make more sense. And of course, boom, this is my baby, the cinematic environs. The eighth book is already out. We are working on most of the natural environments right now, but that is not a limitation at all, because we will eventually put them together into one big giant compendium, hardback compendium, um, and move on into more arcane, more diverse environments that are not quite natural, but we would like to go into other worlds and such, whether it's, I don't know, Asgard or Olympus, or you want to go to other worlds like in Spelljammer or something like that. Good morning there, Scott. Is Vincent says the big question is what to do with a volcano other than throwing a ring into it. Not much, which used to piss me off with those darn elves. Because I'm thinking like the elves all were always so haughty, like, oh, the ring, we know about the ring. The ring is dangerous. The ring is blah blah blah. And the whole Lord of the Rings things could have been over in like 5 minutes if Agent Smith just pushed what's his face into the volcano. But no, now that you get pushed onto the now you got to fix that trouble from 1,000 years ago. We have to leave the age of man. It's time for us to go. I'm just being stupid. All right, guys. So of course we got the front cover, Blasted Lands. Alex, he does all the layout. He does all the art. Puts it through like an oil brush or maybe watercolor filter or something, and does a great job with that. So let's blast through here. Bam. Of course, we got credits and everything. Yeah, bunch of whiners. Where else? Stop. Yeah, Scott says tossing sacrifice to appease a massive fire elemental or tricky red dragon. Yeah. Now, as you guys probably already know, fifth edition has something called harvesting lava. Yeah, absolutely. The red dragons are known to have a lair action because they have a lair that they live in. And normally that lair is controlled by and acts on behalf of this red dragon. Nothing wrong with that. But why just a red dragon? Of course, we have traps. We've got like generalized traps, maybe pit traps or crumbling traps and whatnot. But I don't know. You go into a dungeon and it's sometimes it can be a little bit uneventful. It's like it's just a resource drain, right? Oh, roll to see if you see the trap. If not, trap, whatever. Um, but my intention is that all of these things, traps, layers, puzzles, creating not puzzles like Rubik's cubes or puzzles like walks on four legs, then walks on two, then on its walks on three legs. What is it? Um, kind of thing, or something that follows you around, the size of a mountain, doesn't weigh anything. Kind of puzzles. Um, it's the idea of putting the players into a situation where they have to figure out how to get through it. So the pages that I'm paging through right now are just a descriptor of how we use how it you can use the book and the descriptions of what we use in the books for things like the flavor text, the titles known as pressure, if then, even the odds, changes, fumble crit. Those are terms that we use as titles for the different chapter headings in the book and explain what they are. Pressure is just when you set up a situation and you want your players to be in it. What are some example situations for you to push them into it? There's no point in having a dangerous situation, your players shrug and just walk away, right? You want to have them to be in danger and have to choose how they handle both being in the environment and possibly being in a conflict with an enemy. Um, if then sounds exactly like what it sounds like. If the players do something, then these effects happen. And if they alter what they do, then these things happen. So if they're careful, these are the effects. If they are not careful and just choose to run headlong, these are the other effects. If they choose to take cover, if they choose to stay in the open, whatever the case may be, that would be listed under if then. Even the odds is extremely simple rule that we use. You take any die, you roll it. You want to even the odds, which means if you get an even result, you are safe from whatever the danger is. If you get an odd result, that means that you may need to make saving throws or ability checks or skill checks, or you might get knocked in the head with something or what have you. So it's our way of creating a randomizer, because that randomizer then changes the environment of what you're in. So a randomizer could be arrows are being fired, thousands of arrows being fired from a castle, everyone even the odds. And then everyone who got an even result, you're not being targeted by arrows from the castle walls. You get an odd result, boom, you better watch out. Vincent says, I think you have a good description of the environment. You don't really need the what if examples, and it becomes easier to improvise. Yeah, absolutely. So we also do have plenty of descriptors for you as the GM to use, so that the players know that they get the impression of what kind of danger is in front of them, and then you can um, do you can change, flip, manipulate it any way you want. Oh, Prue, what's going on? Hey, yeah, Morris, people. And the fumble crit. Oh, I'm sorry. Changes represent like you have a situation. Let's make an example. Like you have a forested hill, and then changes are things you can add to that, which may or may not be applicable every time, but it may be temporary things or to increase the dangers they're in. So, for example, let's say you have that wooded hill. Well, let's say it begins to rain, or there's snow, or there's high winds, or the wooded hill, there's a mudslide, or there's a rock slide, or maybe the roots are exposed and it becomes even more of a hazard to walk through them and whatnot. So the wooded hill could be on fire. These things might not happen all the time, but you layer them on top. So under changes, these are just some examples of like, hey, you're walking across a rope bridge and it starts to crumble. Or, hey, you're trying to climb up the cliffside and the winds start to pick up or something, or there's an avalanche, those kind of things. Fumble crit sounds exactly what is what it sounds like. You make a critical roll. These are critical layers you can use to add on to what you're doing. So you could hit someone with your sword, and not only do you impale them, but they also fall to their knees and slide down the wooded hill, as an example, or they trip and fall and knock their head against something. They get their leg stuck into a crevice and it breaks or whatever. Also, because it says fumble crit, it's not just crits, these are also fumbles. These are possible things that the DM could punish their players with. The players, it happens to them and such. So then we have all of our definitions, all of the condition definitions, because we use plenty of conditions for the cinematic environs. Everything from constitution damage, like what's on your screen now, advantage, disadvantage, exhausted, prone, restrained, poisoned. We have new ones like hypothermia, incapacitated. We have shaken, stunned, unconsciousness. It goes on and on and on. And then some other simple things like passive perception, what advantage, disadvantage, and saving throws are. And that's really to save people the time of having to, especially if you're brand new, to page flip from one book to another. We just have those things in 2 pages. You just open them up. What is stunning? What is unconsciousness? Oh, that's what it is. Oh, what's paralysis? Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, Scott says, I love using crit 1 encounter effects. Yeah, and these are just things like if you're on a frozen lake and you smash someone in the head, how cool is it that they pop right through the ice? Not only they smash and their jaws broken or something, but they smash through the ice, or their arm goes through it and they fall down prone, or they spin away from you and drop their weapon or something like that. So we start out with blasted conditions, and these are the kind of conditions that overall affect the entire region. Now, for me, volcanoes are not just dangerous, but you can use these as like a hellscape. So if you want to run an adventure in like the 9 hells or the abyss, or like where it's like fiends and things, especially for higher level play, this is where we start out. You have heat and exhaustion and all those things going on. Vince says, I think if you want to use these effects in the environment, you should have index cards or similar handy things to look up, or maybe just a copy of those first pages. Yes, and you got not ahead of me, but you're in my mind, because what I really want to do is make a deck of cards of environmental hazards, and you can just go through the deck of cards, lay them down in front of you. It would be like a cheat sheet of what you're engaging in. So let's say there's a big storm. You could have a card for wind, a card for lightning, a card for torrential rain, a card for fog, a card for mud, flooding, and then you could just pick and choose and flip those out. Boom, boom, boom. Put them in front of you. The PCs could even see them. You don't have to hide that stuff. That's not a metagaming thing. If it's windy, these are the effects. And so, yeah, draw a random environment encounter. That's not too far off, because I have already started working on a random planar dimension book idea that I'm running through my head, like not just going to different planes that are logical, but like literally like Doctor Strange, like traveling through the chaos of the cosmos, where every dimension exists in some way, shape, or form, and rolling or creating random dimensional features. Scott said, I'd have them as notes in an encounter. Example of fighting in a natural tavern. Anyone rolls a 1, steps in this fissure, kicks a bullet sleeping below the fighter, who now attacks that creature and his allies. I don't know. Bullets probably make pretty good pillows, I suppose, if they're taking a nap. Very much like laying your head down on a sleeping shark or a bear trap or something. I don't think you'd have too much trouble with that. Vince says, I think volcanoes are not only a possible danger, people settled near volcanoes for ages. Fertile grounds, warm regions, sometimes even steam that could be used. Strangely enough, volcanic eruptions, the carbon and other elements make the ground extremely fertile. Caverns. Um, so anyway, okay, so we have regional conditions such as burning, and we have optional rules for causing essentially far more lethal damage from burning. So we have a thing where we cause damage to constitution based on how long you are burning. It's an optional thing. Direct constitution damage cuts through hit points, and if you are running a gritty or far more realistic setting, you can apply the constitution damage, which of course your constitution lowers. It lowers your hit points. It lowers your ability to make constitution saving throws against pain and exhaustion, etc. So yeah, and then we have pain and scarring. Pain is the shock that runs through your body from being harmed, and of course scarring, whether someone's arms or face or whatever is scarred from the heat. So we have optional rules for that, which is also a possible hazard. And then we go into heat, describing, of course, rules for heat exhaustion, heat stroke, and these are pretty long-term effects. For example, for heat under heat exhaustion, we say for hours, a creature exposed to the heat, even with adequate water, must succeed on a Constitution saving throw every 2 hours or gain one level of exhaustion. The DC is 5 for the first 2 hours and increases by 1 every 2 hours thereafter. Those in medium or heavy armor, or those wearing heavy armor, heavy restrictive clothing, have disadvantage on their saves. So that's just an example of if your players are traveling, and it takes weeks for them to get through this region, these things could happen to them. And of course, if they fail, they can undergo a heat stroke, in which, for example, under heat stroke, every hour exposed to extreme heat, they must make a Constitution saving throw or lose 1 point from strength, dexterity, or intelligence. You can decide randomly. The DC is 15 for the first hour, increases by 1 per hour, and that's when they start failing their saves. So then they start having losses to their ability scores. That, yes, this can, for 5th edition people who are not used to that, this could be a little bit of number crunching. So of course, these are all options. We talk about sudden heat stroke, hot metal, the high sun, which increases the DC by 5 during the 2-hour period of the hot sun. We talk about farther severe heat. Yeah. Volcanoes. What's up, dude? So we're just going through like rapid heat exhaustion and all of those extreme events from just heat. And we haven't even gotten into the hazards, right? We're just talking about, this is the overlay. This is you and your PCs traveling through this dangerous region and the effects that it has on them. Of course, we talk about foraging for like food and water in a blasted area, like volcanic regions, temperature exposure. So we have like what happens when you're in the 300 to 400 degrees. We have what happens when you're in 400 to 500 degree areas, and the effects on the body and such. It's pretty crazy. At 500 degrees and up, we say flammable items immediately ignite, and soft metals like copper, silver, and gold begin to melt. Unprotected creatures suffer 3d6 points of constitution damage per round and must make a constitution save, DC of 20, at the beginning of their turn to avoid falling unconscious from heat and pain. That's pretty damn hard. High level characters running through like a hellscape or something, their chances are they are not going to survive. So if you want to run your players in and around and through a volcanic area or a hellscape or the 9 hells, we really suggest using it, because really a human being on their own, with not very much skill, i.e. like level 3 or below, and they're not going to make it on their own without a lot of resources. DBA turning into the opportunity to prostitute himself to show off his wares. Absolutely, man. Sometimes I got to show my ass a little bit. So We move on to some of these regional conditions. These are just overall conditions that might cover tens or hundreds of miles, whatever. We got scorching winds and the effects of scorching winds. For example, here we go. Scorching winds with blasts of hot air. Scorching winds can temporarily raising the temperature by one heat category. For example, extreme heat becomes damaging heat. Damaging heat becomes deadly heat. That kind of thing. And then, in addition to scorching winds, in addition to any heat effects, a scorching wind imposes disadvantage on ranged weapon attacks and wisdom perception checks that rely on hearing. So these are just examples that you can throw into your game just to make things a little bit difficult. Of course, this means that that sometimes some players might rise above others depending on the environment that they're in. So if you have yourself your player that's like your ranged expert, like your sniper, your archer or something, when they're in scorched winds, they're going to be kind of screwed a little bit because they're going to have disadvantage on all their arrow shots. But then that might mean that your more upfront melee character might have a better ability to have to fight whatever deadly things are around, and so that you can literally manipulate the spotlight based on the environment. Yeah, marketing, brother. Yeah, well, actually, the idea was bringing up volcanoes. I just thought we'd talk about them, and then the fact that there might be some things that I forgot, but I kind of doubt it. just because I know the way you guys are and the way I am, that when people bring things up, it's like, oh, well, what about this? What about this? You know, like lava harvesting and stuff. Yeah, you got to put yourself in the player's mindset and then in the GM's mindset, and of course in the neutral mindset, which is what happens with the environment in general. Yeah, Infinite says, no joke, I was dreaming about volcanoes and one of my fire monsters. Yeah, absolutely. So we talk about lava fields, such as like caustic gases, hidden lava pools, and of course, the most terrible thing are earthquakes. So we have rules for involving earthquakes into your realm. Now, this book is called Blasted Lands because in your setting, it might not just be a single volcanic mountain. It might be that your world might be it's not Dark Sun, but post-apocalyptic-ish, where like a hellscape is brought to Earth. So there might just, instead of giant mountains, it might just be a blasted landscape with like lava spewing forth and things falling from the sky and the ground shaking randomly. Or you might want to destroy your own world. Definitely. RP Gamers, I'm definitely flavoring a volcano. Jagic. I'm going to figure out how to pronounce that. I know what the Jagic is. It's a little inside joke. So, but if you want to take, we've created an apocalypse engine, not the game system, not the rule set, but literally a way for you to destroy a portion of your own game setting. Earthquakes being part of it, and then the rest of the rules are in the appendix about what would happen if, like a Pompeii, right? What happens if something so traumatic happens that it starts to destroy the entire environment, including things like omens and whatnot. Yeah, and Vincent says in one of my Dungeon World campaigns, the character had a living flame as his mentor source of power. It was the first flame which lived inside of a mountain. Yeah, dangerous. Infinite says, I thought calderas erupting from unassuming areas would be most terrifying, or the blackened skies filled with ash. Of course, we're going there. So anyway, we do have a chart here about severity of my mind just blank. Earthquakes. Can't get it out. It's in my head. Can't get it out my mouth. Yeah, they always say that. They always say that to me. I can't get it out my mouth. So of course we have some flavored text, some artwork. I love the vivid colors that that Alex finds for these. I think many of these are actual photographs that are just washed and such. Earthquake, shake it like a salt shaker. You shoot. Anyway, so here in this chapter, we have ourselves, get rid of that. We have ourselves the blasted land hazards. And these are, instead of just overall general conditions like heat and heat exhaustion, foraging, these are more centralized. These are like, oh, I'm finding this hazard, and then when I travel further, I'm going to find this other hazard. And of course, you can layer them. They're all options. RP Gamer says, quick, anyone getting screenshots, keep them talking, and we can capture the whole damn book. Yeah, that's not a big deal. Just although I think there might be some people that might try to do that. Kind of crazy. So here we have acrid waters, and this is your typical boiling, acid, steam, all those things. So we talk about our pressures, people being chased or sleeping near, camping near acid rivers and such. We talk about like still water, drinking the water, casual contact with it, rivers of acid and fumaroles. Vince says, totally worth the hours of work for a product that costs a couple of bucks. Yeah, thanks, dude, man. Yeah, it's acid pools here. Yeah, it would take hours to have to take each page, click it, because unfortunately, if I show you the entire page, you actually won't be able to read it. So if I shrink it down for those who are going through the process of, I think I want to watch this for 80 hours and write everything down by hand, copy paste on their Google Doc. I don't know. So we talk about acids and corrosive liquids, some affecting living materials, others affecting inorganic materials. Let's go through one. Here we go. Corrosive liquid. This gray or green liquid will eat away at soft stone and corrode metal. Even the banks of a river will crumble if the water flows with intensity. Ceramic pots and glass vials are generally resistant, though even these will dissolve over time. Most metals will become pitted and corroded in 2d4 rounds, while sedimentary rock will begin to crumble in 3d4 rounds. These times assume complete submersion in the corrosive liquid. Magic items will be unaffected. Any constructs or artificial beings will suffer a loss of 1 constitution per round if immersed in corrosive liquid, or 2d6 points of acid damage if splashed on them. So your gear forged or war forged individuals are going to be affected by that, whereas your normal humans won't be. That's corrosive liquid. Above we have ourselves acid. We have scorching hot springs, and then we have to have ourselves, some changes and things, such as even the odds for unstable edges and hidden dangers, because you might be walking over top of it or standing near the shores. Vincent said, yeah, you would have to cut this stuff together. Did you do a lot of research for Volcanoes for this book? Yeah, I do research for all of the environments, and then pull it back so it's playable, because I could absolutely copy like a Wikipedia page on sedimentary rocks and all those kind of things, but if you can't use it in game, or it's not flavorful, then if you can't interact with it. So yes, I do a lot of research, and then I pull it back and go, okay, what can we use in game? Infinite says, research, man, Third Pillar God has got the Discovery Channel. Dude, I love that stuff, man. I mean, it's all the Nature Channel things. Oh my God, I live off of that. I love it. I absolutely love it. RP says, volcanoes don't just affect the immediate area. I remember the Icelandic eruption pretty much grounded Europe and sent poisonous ash all over Europe. Yes, and of course, right now, this kind of thing is happening in Hawaii, as far as the states go. Yeah, that was a fun month or so. RP says, I love the Discovery channels and History channels. It helps that my eldest loves it too. Yeah, I love it. It's like, hey, I don't have anything to watch. Boop, Animal Channel, Discovery Channel. those kind of things. And of course, we have ourselves a fumble crit if you're near acid. Um, for example, being tripped or being splashed by it by accident. Thin ground, you drop something up, you're sprayed in the face, pulled under. Um, here's one I love: stained cuffs. The victim is unaware that a portion of their belongings is stained with some harmful liquid. A backpack, quiver, or cloak, boots, shirt cuffs, or a carried item is affected. The effects will not be noticeable until 1d4 rounds later. During that time, the offending liquid may have caused irreparable harm. So, yeah, it's possible for someone to get splashed by something by accident. They fumble, or you make a crit on someone else, and they get splashed by acid, and they have no idea that their special magic items getting eaten away, or their favorite cloak or something. Infinite says, yeah, imagine how many pages of rules you need to explain the differing melting points of different stones and metals. I mean, yeah, you could. Is it possible to do that? Sure. Would it be completely friggin' boring? Yes. So, I could list the melting points of like difference between gold and lead and silver and electrum and whatnot. But is that a gameable notation? Not really. Essentially, what you want to do is fight the red dragon in the volcano, right? Yeah. RP's gamer says, yeah, but that eruption's happening in America. Who cares? Yeah, it's a news cycle thing, unfortunately. Yeah. Prue says so many problems feeding livestock too because the ground was covered in ash, and that in itself is a situation. So here in this chapter we have ash and smoke, and this deals with all of the effects of ash. So, for example, we have ash in fields, which talks about moving across a field of ash that could be, let me just read it out. So, for example, this is a dark gray plain of nothing but ankle to chest deep ash, charcoal, debris, and dust. It cannot support much weight, requiring a forced march as if through snow. If the wind kicks up, the ash can drift and become airborne, like a dark blizzard blocking out the sun. Anything that rests, moves, or falls below the ashen layer is hidden from view. Visual perception checks are made at a disadvantage to find anything within the ash. The DC is 15 to search for lost items or concealed hazards. Tripping is also a possibility, so characters must be wary. So the point of like the ash and the smoke and everything is yet one more. We haven't even gotten into the volcano, right? This is just the ash that's already left there. So there's like windswept dust, clouds of ash are hazards. I didn't mean to do that. Boop, 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 boop. Creatures, how they are moving in speed. How long does the ash remain in the air? If you disturb it, creating that hazard. If you're making a dash movement through it, how much more ash you uncover. Breathing in the dust and the damage it does to you in your lungs, causing constitution damage and exhaustion, possibly. If you roll a natural 1, they might suffer lung damage and suffer permanent constitution loss, and how to heal that. And of course, it blocks vision, so there's complete darkness and whatnot. Infinite says, I'd find the melting point of gold interesting because PCs and their love of gold. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And of course, if you can add in wind, like those scorching winds that we had before, and that wind could sweep across a huge plain of ash and then create a whole bunch of disadvantages and such. So, for example, for windswept dust, in a lightly, geez, how the heck did I do that? Anyway, in a lightly obscured area, such as patches of windswept dust, creatures have disadvantage on wisdom perception checks that rely on sight. This includes targeting opponents with ranged attacks, both mundane and magical. So, absolutely, I did it again. Sorry, doesn't matter. Anyway, so yes, as the game master, you can add these difficulties in there, so that person that wants to cast that lightning bolt while they're getting blasted in the face with dust might have difficulty aiming at someone. Scott says any arguments about real world physics in D&D can be ended with, I hear what you're saying, but magic. Yeah, because magic, right? It's when you if you get too far into the real world physics, you go down the rabbit hole of having to include all of the real world physical things that happen. So, you start talking about gravity and dust and time periods and uh, people's different body types and the time of day and and how many particles are there and how hot is it and is the heat fluctuating and it's not in the kiln, it's out in the whatever. You can go down a rabbit hole when it comes to things like that. Yeah, Vincent says you can get minerals in rivers, which could kill the fish, make people sick. You could make awake slumbering insects or monsters having a hard time breathing due to smoke blackening the skies. RP says, interesting. Imagine PCs transporting their treasure home to a volcanic area and all begins to melt and actually seep through their backpacks. um, Infinite says, everyone that runs Cryfoth needs to pick this book up. Yeah. How how come I'm now imagining Barbarian taking on Godzilla? Yeah, because that's a thing. Yeah, Cryfoth, I actually thought about this. I mean, pairing the two would be awesome. So we're not even past the ash and smoke because we have things like ember cyclones, which is like burning ash. We have predators, evening the odds, whether you're crossing the area, and randomizing the effects. And then, of course, we have all kinds of my fumble crit. I love these things. Vomiting, blinded, raw throat, coughing up blood, collapsed lung, pack full of dust, halo of gray. Um, like a pack full of dust. The victim doesn't notice a pouch or backpack has become saturated in this gray ash. When the character reaches into a pouch or backpack, they are hit with a puff of ash. Roll again on this table to find the effects. So, yeah, that's one of my little gotchas. Yeah, the classic Tarrasque waking from volcanic eruptions. Absolutely. So we got ourselves our ash, we had our conditions and whatnot, but now we're getting into deadly rain. Um, Here, the deadly rain could be any number of things. We have ourselves acid rain. The acid rain kind of goes back to with the rivers and pools of acid. We've got the flaming embers, so you can you're walking through an area where you're getting pelted by flaming embers. And we have a little randomized chart for things, for example, being burned for 1 hit point or blinded for a round, stunned, from choking, flammable items may catch fire, constitution loss, or even the chance that you might roll twice on the chart just to see what other effects. You've got showers of hot coals, everything from the extremely dangerous lava bomb for 3d6 bludgeoning and 3d6 fire damage, although there's only a DC 10 to get out of the way. But if it happens each round, what happens is you even the odds to see who gets targeted or not for that round, and they might have to change their tactics to avoid it because they might be impacted, even though the rogue is thinking, hey, I'm going to do is sneak up on this person and perform this particular action, and they might have to change their tactics because they're in the way of being hit by lava. Yeah, suddenly every character looks the same, gray. Yeah, volcanic eruptions is a staple of B-movie monsters, absolutely. And part of the flavor text I talk about that gray. It's just like, ugh, I'm choking, everything's gray, I can't wash it off. So of course we have our little changes, whether it's continuous for hours, days, or weeks. We've got hellfire, which is basically literally a condition that includes everything all at the same time, and then of course localized, which might only affect a small area. Of course, we have desolation. These are the areas that have been blasted so many times. One of my favorite here, we've got refractive rocks, which amplify light that's being used. We've got jagged spears, so it can kind of cut into your feet and your body. Reflective obelisks. This is one of my favorite, and this kind of goes into some of our little far more mystical regions where the reflective obelisks create an artificial mirror image type spell but for every being, sentient being moving in and around the obelisks. So if there's 3 party members, they each have reflections of themselves in the obelisks. And let's say there's 2 enemies they're fighting, the 2 enemies also have the mirror image obelisk, and it makes it really, really difficult unless you start destroying the reflected images, which you may have to fight the enemy, although not destroying them could benefit you if you're being reflected. So it's just another hazard to throw in there. Vincent says, wouldn't it be neat to have spells or abilities that manipulate the environment dramatically? So if you're in a volcanic region, you could erupt lava, but in snow regions, create ice, etc. I absolutely agree with you on that one. Just being able to harness that, if you like, a druid that is from that region is probably going to be kick ass. Although you might want a frost druid in a volcanic region, because they'll probably help you out quite a bit, but they're going to feel at a loss big time. Sorry, just getting a drink. The ground covered, RP says the ground covered in ash would be a great way to conceal pits, creatures, and other hazards. You're following me, because that basilisk that's slithering through the ash to come up and like turn people to stone will be quite dangerous and quite hilarious, especially if somebody gets turned to stone and they fall down into the ash and now you can't see them. So they're not only petrified, but you can't see them, and you got to find them. And then the creature that's swimming around in the ash pulls people down under it. Yeah, absolutely. um, um, Vincent says, or blow the ash with a gust of wind to create thick ash clouds to cover your group. Perfect. That, and see, right there is a great idea for the players to use. Like, hey, I'm going to blow. If I use a gust of wind, can that cover our escape? Hell yes. Or can it blind the other creature? Of course, especially if they're not native to the place. Maybe you're being hunted by the goblinoid horde, and you want to blind them all. Use a gust of wind. Yeah, RP says, imagine how powerful you would seem to the locals, causing volcanic eruptions. Someone might even describe that's how their spells look. My fireball, I don't throw a fireball, I just create fire underneath the location. It just happens to look like a volcanic eruption, but that's my fireball. I think that would be a great way to flavor your spells. Yeah, so anyway, fire and ash. Of course, we have all of our different things for planes of about desolation and broken rock and stuff. So you have things like falling between crevices. So like between a crevice here is not just falling down into a pit, but it's falling down into one of those places where it's like a tight fit. It's like the giant sized version of an axe trying to split wood, and you get that narrow fall, so you get jammed down into the rock. Of course, we have hidden dangers because you got to watch your step, tripping hazards, unstable edges, and of course, a giant flat plane of nothing, which in itself is a hazard, because a dry riverbed, flats, or lifeless field makes it nearly impossible to hide from predators. All checks to hide are made with disadvantage. With limited hiding places and a featureless landscape, making towards the edge of this hard terrain is paramount. The DM can allow a survival skill check, DC 15, to spot one or more of the above locations that mar the landscape. A crag, fissure, or deep channel can offer a place to take refuge. This may only be temporary as predators surround the point of safety. So even a flat, featureless plane, the way I'm trying to introduce it, can be used as a hazard, especially if the players need a place to hide, or the player is exceptionally good at, well, hiding, and they have no place to do it. Again, we're flipping down here. We've got lava flow right up top here, and then we've got geysers shooting crap up into the air randomly, or maybe timed out or whatnot. Old Faithful shooting up steam and wind and stuff. So we've got like boiling sprays, gouts of flame, noxious fumes. Of course, we have lava itself. You got to have lava. And it's not just one type of lava. Oh, hide like Eugene did in The Walking Dead, right in the ash. Of course, you can do that. Why not? Now, the hazard is if you hide in the ash, you might suck some of that stuff down. So it can both benefit and harm the PC. And of course, my big thing is leave all the decisions in the hands of your players. Like as the DM, like don't make that choice for them. Just present to them the hazard and have them use and abuse the environment on their own. If that player feels they're going to get an advantage by hiding in the ash, let them do it. If they also are aware that hiding in the ash might make them vulnerable to choking hazards, which of course they might say, well, I'm going to soak a cloth and cover my face with it, or I'm just going to hold my breath and stay down as long as I can to let the I don't know, pride of bullets or land sharks go overhead, then I'm just going to hide. So I'll rather take those chances or make my saving throws or whatnot. So and I love those situations because they create tension, because the player has one idea to do something. The DM says there's a hazard. The player now is caught between a rock and a hard place, and those tense decisions are like, come on, make a decision. And he's like, oh, okay, I'm still gonna hide. I'm gonna hide down in the ash and just hope that they pass by and then attack them when their back is turned with my sneak attack or something, right? Oh, no, fade out of there, please. So, all right, um, Vince says, I also had an environment in another Dragon Dungeon World game, which I call Lava Swamp. It had glowing, dangerous larvae living in there. And Vince says, wouldn't the ash at least be warm, maybe even hot? Yes, because there's like flaming embers is my thing, where if the ash is hot, that's also a danger. But someone may say, I'd rather take the harm. I'd rather be impacted by the harm of the heat and the ash and the choking and hide than it would be to be attacked by a pack of bullets or boulets. Infinite says, no matter what the players do, they cannot hope to survive against ash methods. And look how dangerous they become, right? If you add them into this environment, and this is the environment they live in, how much more dangerous do they become when not only do they have their own attacks, they have excellent place to hide, they've got great cover, they can use the environment against the PCs, and if there's more than one of them, if there's a pack of them, this just becomes extremely chaotic. And why wouldn't a pit fiend live in a place like this, right? Why wouldn't what is the other one, Baylor or whatever, have their allies, their underlings live in this blasted region? So here we have lava. We've got and different types of lavas. We have congealed, fluid, molten, and viscous, depending on how liquid you want your lava or how liquid it is based on the temperature and how long it's been outside of the main lava explosion. So the main lava erupted area is going to be extremely liquid, and then as it flows downhill and flows across fields and flows down the mountainside, it'll start to cool and congeal. So the cooler it gets, the harder it becomes, but it also does less harm than when it's completely liquefied. And then there's the thing is, lava isn't liquid, it's more fluid, and it adheres to things. So it's not that you can just walk across the top of it and you're done. If it sticks to anything, you stick your sword in it, that lava will stick to the sword or your shield or your armor, to your feet. You can be Players are going to want to do this. They're going to want to try to run across lava or fight on bridges over top of lava, fight on ledges that start to disappear as they're fighting near lava, while they're fighting maybe kobolds riding on like blackened wyverns that are in this area or something. And when that happens, that lava will stick to them and burn them and pull them down into it. So of course we have things like eruptions, rivers, sprays, all that kind of stuff. Man, started hit towards the hour. Here we have a pyroclastic flow. This is literally hey, Sam DeMarco. Okay. This is literally the classic, the volcano has exploded. What's the Dante's Peak, that's it. This is literally the Dante's Peak running from the exploding, cascading lava and hot ash and everything that comes after you. Um, let's hit this. This torrent of material can reach speeds of up to 430 miles an hour with temperatures exceeding 1800 Fahrenheit, 1000 Celsius. The amount of material ranges from a few hundred cubic yards to more than 10 cubic miles, depending on the size of the volcano. So those are just little details from the realistic thing. Um, Vincent says, you guys thought walking on lava spell would be useless. Yeah. Hey, man, that might be able to learn that in the Hellscape if you make a deal with a Baylor or a Pit Fiend. You know. So then we have things like, meat grinder rules. Um, Meat grinder rules. Bam. Anyone inside the pyroclastic flow without cover or protection will suffer unimaginable bludgeoning and heat damage. Each round, the creature must make a Constitution saving throw, DC 20, or suffer 6d6 points of bludgeoning damage and 1d4 points of Constitution damage from the heat. A successful saving throw means taking only half damage. Any shelter must be able to withstand the flow, which means heavy stone construction or underground location. Yeah, every round, 66 damage. Heat, 1d4 damage of Constitution. 66 bludgeoning, 1d4 points of Constitution loss from the heat. Make a save for half every single round in a volcanic eruption, not including the side effects of everything that happened before this. Well, all right. So then we have things such as the fumble crit, losing items, getting lost in the pyroclast, dropping things, sharp debris, sucking down a mouthful of ash, getting hit by extremely hot portion of the flow if you're trying to hide, a broken arm. Victim's arm is badly broken. The bone can be mended with 20 hit points of magical healing or having the limb in some sort of restraint for 4 weeks, during which time it will be useless. So yeah, just coming up with some things there. Pyroclastic flow is pretty dangerous. You can have them happen over and over again, but we're still not done. We're in a volcanic region, so we have here shattered earth, and this is where the ground is so disrupted that it presents all kinds of hazards. But of course, we don't want to just say, oh, the ground's broken. It's difficult terrain. That's yawn, is boring. We want to make things more dynamic. So here in the shattered earth, we have ourselves a randomizer. And I just came up with like 30-foot squares. So if your players are moving across this plane, every 30-foot, 10-foot by 10-foot square on your graph paper becomes a different type of shattered area. So we have things like ascended plateaus, some places boulder strewn, a deep crevice, tilted shale, stone ledges, bridges and ledges, precarious towers, flat rock, descending shelf, and those kind of things. So for example, for tilted shale, it's a 30-foot square of flat stone is tilted at an angle. It slopes forward, left, right, or towards the party. Pick or roll randomly, 1d4. If the slope is facing the party, they must ascend instead of descend. Climbing up or down is a DC 12 challenge using strength athletics. Failure means sliding in a fall for 1d4 hit points of damage. Being hit in a combat may force a save if the roll to hit was 5 or more than needed. So someone could get hit and then they start sliding, right? Or we have ourselves stone bridges and ledges. A stone has worn away to form a narrow bridge. Ledges, bridges, and pathways. Walking across them requires a dexterity acrobatics check, which is pretty easy, DC 10. If a character is struck in combat while crossing, a dexterity saving throw is required, DC 10, to avoid falling 30 feet. So you could have battle on these, ledges, maybe the stone's falling or something like that, or the region has eroded the earth away underneath, and then each 30-foot section you can roll randomly. Oh, you're going west. Okay, roll for that. Instead you're deciding to go east. Okay, this is what you encounter. Oh, you're going north again, and just build it randomly instead of having to map out each section for miles and miles and miles. And then of course you got to throw on top of them adversaries. So here we go with volatile gases, and we have a way for you to build your own volatile gases. These can seep up from the ground. Maybe their players are underground and they have these gases. Maybe they smell something in the air, and there's a danger as they're fighting an enemy that these volatile gases might react to what they're doing. So here we have a randomized table for random telltale scents. Cayenne pepper, is it? Yes, here we go. Number 4, cayenne pepper. So we've got like almonds and peanuts, cayenne pepper, cinnamon, cut grass, lilacs and honeysuckle. We got onions and garlic, rotten eggs, spring rain, wood shavings, and these are just examples. I mean, it's just something to throw in there, right? So you want to make yourself a random. Okay, I'm gonna need. Smells like burning eyes. Okay, guys, give me. It would be a D12, a D6, and a D12. So random number. 1 to 12, 1 to 6, 1 to 12, and you guys can throw out any numbers you want, and we'll make ourselves some dangerous gases. But anyway, let me move back up. So with volatile gases, smells like smoked ham. 7, 2, and 11. All right, so here we have your players encounter the smell of lilacs and honeysuckle, and that's for Vince. For Scott. Scott's volcanic gases, I don't know what he's been eating, smells like carbon, sulfur, and ash. All right, so let's move on down here. Now, the second part of our volatile gases are the stimuli. So you travel across this blasted area, you smell something. Oh, Prue, sorry, Prue. Prue, your gas smells like mold and mildew. So now we have our stimuli, and the stimuli is what will set off the gases, because right now you're only just smelling it. That's right. Yeah, dude, I've had some of that creep out of my rear end many a time. So for Vince, we'll do some different. Let's say so for Vince's gas, it's stimulated by arcane castings. A phenomenon known only to a few, the use of magic can spontaneously activate the volatile gases. The casting of any magic spell or effect will activate the noxious cloud. For Scott, it was a D6. Okay, so I'll just use a 1. Air disruption. A medium-sized creature or object of similar size will create turbulent currents. Therefore, all movement must be limited to a slow walk, which is basically the half speed. And Prue said a 2. I'm going to go with her with a different number because it's the same as someone else. Lightning. Let's go with that. Any electrical source within the gas will ignite these harmful vapors. Vince is like, this guy's not listening. Yep. La la la. So, all right. So the gaseous effects. So Vincent's gas creates a viscous sludge. Acid burns cover every surface. Victims suffer 1d10 acid damage. All biological materials such as leather, cloth, silk, or wood are destroyed by acid as well. Magic items or those enclosed survive. So now you have a situation where the players smell something which might trigger them to notice that there's a danger. That danger means that if whatever happens, let's say they cast a spell, then this effect happens. They can also use survival or arcana to discover what these volatile gases do, or maybe even if you're a dwarf who has stone cunning, maybe they understand these things, or you're from this region, so you know that these volatile things happen. Again, creating tension, creating drama, moving the spotlight around. Because if you're a spellcaster, that's going to suck. But for Scott's version, horrific paralysis. All living creatures are paralyzed for 1d4 minutes. Now, of course, all these have saving throws. For example, at the bottom, I say, note, saves to avoid or resist can be made using dexterity to dodge out of the area, or constitution to utilize endurance to overcome the effects. The DC is rated at 15. a random DC can be rolled using a D10 plus 10. So again, random, pick, choose, whatever the hell you want. Prue's cloud, nasty cloud, causes a choking cloud. Victims cannot speak. There is a disadvantage with strength checks by those choking as well. This lasts 1d4 minutes. So, of course, not being able to speak means that you can't verbalize, which means you can't communicate with your allies. Maybe that means in your game you can't use like a bardic inspiration or verbal components or what have you, or you cast a charm spell on a creature or monster or individual, but now you can't give them instructions, or you have a pet or familiar you're trying to yell out to, or maybe even warn another ally about something and they can't hear you if you can't speak. So these are, again, these are things just to help you create that tension and drama and have the environment affect everything. And as I've been describing it, that's the environment. Put on top of that a combat, and you're really going to ramp up the tension. Now, of course, using everything in the book all at the same time is going to be nearly impossible. But you can just pick and choose what you want. Vincent says, but they could identify it just by smell. Well, that's a possibility. You can give them a skill check roll, which I have in there, to allow them to detect it. If it's completely random, they may not, like, for example, if they smell mold or mildew, or they smell sulfur or cayenne pepper, you can assign, okay, if they smell cayenne pepper, it has this effect, or you can make it completely random, such as, let's say they're down in the abyss and those random effects just happen randomly. They have no ability to detect it. And that's based on your environment. So if they encounter it once and you decide that is what your volatile gas is, when they encounter it again and smell the same thing, they'll know what the hell's going on. Scott Poe says, so mine slows you down, then paralyzes you, and you just sit there and suck it in. suck it all in like you're stuck in an elevator. Hey, whoever dealt it, smelt it, or whoever cast it, blast it. Yeah, same as the singularity. Yes, Vincent says same as with my singularities. In a very, very generalized form, exactly like that. What you're saying, Vince, with your astrotitas at astrocitas. I just love saying it. Anyway, Prue says, nice. I love temporary nerfs to abilities, both as a player and a DM. And essentially that's what they are, right? They're temporary. And like I said, you're really going to, not you, but you as in the general you, all of you who are possibly going through this, are really going to have to sit down and talk with your players, because some players are going to feel like, hey, my spellcaster is choking on gases. I can't cast spells. That's unfair. Well, if it's temporary, it's unfair to you now because that's life. Whereas maybe another player that doesn't have spell casting, who's been sitting in the background, who didn't get the spotlight, is now sitting there maybe fighting in front of the spellcaster, getting their chance to be in the spotlight. So in all of these things, many of them I picked designed specifically to be random. If you want to just do, I don't know what I'm going to do. Roll some dice. Okay, here's what you encounter. I also pick them so that they're modular. So you don't need volatile gases on top of lava, on top of being hit by acid rain, on top of, you can just pick and choose what you want. Vincent says, as long as it doesn't make one character completely useless. And a trigger that goes off when casting spells sounds pretty crippling to a lot of characters. I would say yes, but no, because they have a choice of casting a spell or not. Right? If the spellcaster in that situation is at a disadvantage, then that just happens to be the case. Whereas maybe when they're near pools of acid, they're not limited. So it would only be useless and limited if this is a permanent effect you're applying to your entire game world. If you're going down a narrow passage and the person with the long weapon can't use their long weapon in a narrow passage, it is crippling to them in that particular situation. If they get through the narrow passage and get into a big opening, then they're not crippled, right? Vincent says maybe at least some spells would still work, cantrips eventually. Well, it wouldn't be completely useless. The point is to think outside the box. For example, leaving the area of the volatile gases, or moving to another region, or holding your breath and getting the hell out of there, or tricking an enemy that has spell casting to go into that area, or smelling it and going, you know what, this place, every time we cast a spell in this place, the magic just sets it off. Maybe we shouldn't be having a conflict here, i.e. run, right? Yeah, Infinite says, the world ain't fair, baby. Yeah, Vince is just pointing out a fact that of something, but my thing is create problems, not the solutions, right? It's a puzzle. If every time someone casts a spell, it affects this gas, then they have options. They could choose not to cast a spell. They could choose to cast a spell and suffer it. They could choose to leave. And so putting that in the hands of the players, sure, they could whine and complain, but that's not productive. How about we role play? Because that's what it is. You know, and I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of players who are going to balk at that idea. But without drama, without tension, there is no drama, right? Unless you just want to play a video game, which wouldn't have those things. Plus, in D&D, verbal is not included as a component for every spell. Mold Earth is somatic alone, if you remember correctly. I think there's a bunch of somatic. Well, Vince is talking about the fact that one of the stimuli for the gases is casting any spell, which might be different than the result, which is choking gas, which prevents you from speaking, which you could layer those two, but they don't necessarily have to have the same effect. RP says, hi, guys, this is unrelated, but I want to get your opinion. What condition in 5e would translate the effect of a cute dog has on people? Charmed, I would say the charmed effect. There is an actual condition called charmed, in which you cannot take any action against the person who has charmed you, and then that individual can instruct you to do things. Vincent, I'm just saying that you should always have options and not just block off a couple of characters completely. Well, true, but I would have to say that, yeah, charmed. I would have to say that in that situation, they do have options. They could, like I said, they could leave the area. They could not cast a spell. They could use their allies to help them out. They also, remember, this book is in the hands of the DM. They could choose not to use that. It could be a trap. So it would be kind of like saying, it's like a beholder has an anti-magic eye. Its main eye is anti-magic. That nerfs every character that has magic, but it doesn't mean they are out of options. It means that they have to make other options that most people wouldn't think of in gaming, because those options are never presented before them. Right. The Infinite says players always have options. To say that you have no options is off the cop out. And that's true, because running, hiding, choosing to use other techniques, choosing to pretend to do something. They could choose to cast a spell and just make a saving throw when they're done. Kind of like what's the disadvantage? Concentration. Concentration is a thing where if you need to make a concentration check if you're harmed or something like that when you cast a spell, and some people may say, well, why do I need to make a constitution check? It's because you were injured. And those characters who are martially classed may get the spotlight in this situation. Yeah. Yeah. Prue says it's not like the affected character can't walk or think or make themselves useful. Right. Yeah. It's just right. That's just a thing. Most people see something, and because they're not exposed to what it is that I'm trying to put out there using the third pillar, it's just that because these things aren't out there, many people will balk at it, right? Because Vince says it's just a thing to keep in mind as a GM. Things like these can be incredibly frustrating for players. I just remembered the Gamers 2, where the GM just decided that the evil guy could prevent, and it got cut off. Yeah, Infinite says running away and screaming, "We're not supposed to be here," is still a valid and actually a good option. Vince says all divine magic, which may declare completely useless in the encounter, which resulted in a TPK. Not saying that this is the same thing, but it's something to be aware of, right? So, and that's the point, is that people will have great ideas. Like, for example, earlier we were talking about like fields of ash, and someone said, well, my PC could hide down in ash, and the answer is yes. The enemy can hide down in the ash, and the answer is yes. So if you have a situation where, hey, if I cast a magic spell, I'm going to get hurt, the answer is yes, but there are extenuating circumstances. Hey, can I leave the area of effect? Yes. Can I run? Yes. Can I get out? So like, for example, volatile gases. Distinct scent might alert those crossing a pocket of volatile gases. A wisdom, survival, or nature, as well as dwarven stone cunning against a DC 20 may offer more information and a chance to avoid the danger. Successful roll means being alert for either the stimulus or the effects of the gas. A roll that is 5 or more above the DC grants both knowledge elements. So they might get one or the other or both to find out what's happening. And that's just a way, like you could fill up whether it's a cave, if it's on an open plain, they could run. If it's a cave, they can back out. Gust of wind, they might be, you cast a spell of gust of wind, there's a chance they could be affected, and then the gust of wind blows it out of the way. So maybe the person just gets temporary. But see, hell, I just came up with those. I could make a laundry list of options to get out of that. But the idea is to exercise creativity. Otherwise, you could, given enough time, every player could make an argument against everything. It would be the equivalent of, that creature has wings, I can't hit it with my sword, that's unfair, right? It's, well, you got to think outside the box. And Vince is just pointing out that you're going to have those situations, which is why I do these videos in the first place, right? The GM who says, hey, I want to do something that limits spellcasters because there's very little that limits them, but at the same time, I don't want to just nerf the hell out of them in my whole game. Boom, here you have something. Prue says, of course, Vince, that's something you want to kind of portent before the fact. You want your players to be warned so they can plan accordingly. You probably don't want it to be a theme on a whole campaign or a long-term villain. That's not the kind of temporary we're talking about. Yeah, and Infant says, I'm down for whatever, as long as there's continuity or serious cool factor. Right, and of course, here, Vince's comment focuses on specifically a spellcaster. But if they go through this region, it might be that the rogue sucks. Hey, they're out in the open. There's no place to hide. My rogue can't hide or sneak. Now I'm nerfed. And then the more martial classes, like the barbarian and fighter, is just like, oh man, I can't slash acid rain or falling, being hit by deadly embers or blasted meteorites or whatever it is coming down on me. I don't have any defense against that. I'm being nerfed, that kind of thing. So it just moves the spotlight around. And why the hell not challenge people on what they have, making players careful, getting them to run, getting them to think outside the box. Infinite says, hell, in D&D 3E, I, as a fire level 3, fought a level 9 monk unarmed in a single combat. It was awesome. Vince says, maybe give them a golden opportunity later. Of course. And they may come up with that golden opportunity on the spot. You never know. Infinite says, I run in an undead town fighting for weeks, basically naked and weaponless. Vince says, suddenly ash rains down and hinders sight, and the rogue has the time of his life. Yeah. And that's the point, right? Like, the ash clouds sweep through, for example, the volatile gases completely nerfs the spellcaster, right? He's just like, man, if I cast a spell, I'm dead. This sucks. And then ash sweeps in and the rogue gets to shine. And then maybe the spellcaster now is just like, oh, when all the enemies now are blinded, I can go blasting the hell out of them and they can't even see me. Those kind of things. So here we have the Ashen Walker. It's a new it's a background. We like to add in a background for the different areas. The Ashen Walker has gets tool proficiency. A tool proficiency with glass blowing tools. They get an obsidian dagger and such. So of course you get the whole thing with, they are able to, what is their special feature? There we go. Special feature, obsidian craft. Come on, there we go. You spent most of your life in the vicinity of an active volcano or thermal vent and have learned to work volcanic glass into tools and weapons that most would consider impossible. Given glass-blowing tools and access to lava, you can fashion objects from volcanic glass that are not only beautiful and functional, but are also as strong as steel. So essentially, they are able to use their glass-blowing tools and maybe form obsidian or something like that to create items, tools, weapons, things like that. And then we have a little, we talk about how many they can create and such. A post says, I've been in situations where only one PC could affect the monster, let alone just spellcasters or just melee being nerfed. Infinite says, I can't type fast enough. Vincent says, or maybe there's a gas that empowers his spell casting, or maybe they use this gas from before to cast a spell into it to hinder their enemies while themselves being saved. Right. Get those White Walkers. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe the spellcaster's like, oh man, this gas nerfed me. And then they realize, wait a minute, we can use this to our advantage. Trick the enemy into it, trick that beholder, trick that, I don't know, pit fiend or something, that lich into the gas, and then bam, you blast the gas, and then the gas goes off, and then boom, it hits them, and then you know, pile on the lich. So anyway, we come up with, each of these books, we come up with some new things. For example, we have new materials. For example, we have ash. And here, this is a body covering made from a mix of ash, mud, and minerals pounded into dust and mixed into a paste. A majority of the body must be covered to gain any of the following effects. Mixing 2 or more colors from those below will dilute the ash and cancel any protective traits. And so, for example, we have ourselves like right in here, we've got a black ash, we've got red ash, and we've got white ash. So somebody said they wanted to be a White Walker. All right, let's see. What exactly does a white ash grant to you? White ash, ghost ash and ivory ash are possible names as well. White ash grants resistance against necrotic damage and effects. This will reduce damage and durations by half. But that might seem kind of powerful, except we do have a limitation on using ash. Ash, where is this Pikachu? Yes, Kitty, I hear you. Okay, limitations. Nothing more than a loincloth, a chest covering, and footwear can be worn while swathed in the dried ashen blend. A simple belt for a weapon or pouch will not reduce the protective properties. Wearing armor or even a full set of clothing will negate any protection. So, and then 1 dose of ash will last 2 hours before additional coverage is needed. And for example, a water elemental, acid spray, or being swallowed whole constitute enough fluid to wipe away the ash. So there's different narrative limitations for using the ash. Vincent says, you like having colored stuff from the environment. First the spores and now the ash. Oh, I go even further than that, dude. I've got in the aerial book, there's chromatic clouds. So in aerial in the Aerial Reaches book, you can fly a ship through chromatic clouds, and each of the clouds has a different color. So they have randomized colors and randomized effects and randomized stimuli affecting those clouds. So, you know, someone could cast a cold spell and then the place turns into like creates a clap of thunder, or someone could, it's all that kind of, I love that kind of stuff. It's just whatever. I just have fun with it. It's great. And you're absolutely right. Yeah, I have a ton of fun. Here we have bone and obsidian. When we talk about using bone and obsidian as weapons. For example, any damage roll of 1 will reduce the die by 1. For example, a D10 will drop to a D8. And then any maximum damage roll will also reduce the die as above. Any piercing or slashing weapon will break off a shard. It will impale a victim, causing 1d4 damage per round until removed. So, yeah, and it's so the stuff. Yeah, you can make an obsidian if you're an ashen walker. An ash walker can create those things. And then we have other things like a fire staff. The fire staff helps you poke around in the lava. Yeah, Vince says colored ice, colored mushrooms, colored meteorites. Oh, hell yeah. Scott says I run 13th Age. A lot of this stuff is perfect for their game philosophy. Yeah, and of course my whole idea is the thing I've been preaching as the self-appointed third pillar is to use the environment. Like, for example, I have nowhere in our books do we it's not a monster book, right? It's not just new creatures or monsters, but you guys already talked about using bullets, land sharks, boulets, using methods. I talked about a Balar or a pit fiend. You guys are talking about PCs hiding and using the environment for their advantage and all those kind of things. None of that would happen if you have a volcanic region and everyone's just fighting on a flat rock, right? There's no acid rain, there's no fear. If we didn't talk about volatile gases, that would never be an effect in the game. But if we promote using that, you can throw that in there. It's a trap, it's a puzzle, it's a lair, it's all those things. 13. RP says I love that keen edge property. Did I? Oh yeah, new weapon property, keen edge. A keen edge weapon inflicts a critical hit on a 19 or 20. If the weapon scores a critical hit on a living creature, it will inflict an additional 1d4 points of damage per round from bleeding at the end of the victim's turn. The bleeding continues until stopped with any amount of magical healing or a successful medicine check, DC 10, to bind the wound. So basically, it has a higher crit range. If you crit with it, it causes them to bleed out, or that person can be just healed, or they can stop to staunch the bleeding, which means that whoever you attack, they now, let's say your PC is attacked with this weapon from tribalists that are using obsidian daggers with a keen edge. They get slashed. They could keep running around and start bleeding, or they could choose to stop and heal themselves, or they can use to stop and use medicine, or someone else can stop to use medicine on them to heal them. But again, this affects tactics. Do they choose to do that? Do they choose not to? Is it important for them to keep attacking the enemy? Maybe it's more important for them to take cover? Maybe the rogue gets hit and rogue is like, I'm going to go run and hide and then heal myself and then come back in the fight, or they can choose to continue bleeding and stay in the fight, or whatever. Choices. Vincent says, wouldn't a lava blade be awesome? You dip the handle in lava and it forms a blade. I thought about that, actually putting it in here, and then I was like, I don't know how to write that up. and then you bring it up, and now I'm just like, man, I didn't put that in here. Although we don't tend to focus on magic items, but that would be awesome, man. Well, even a weapon that forms from like the environment, kind of like it's a handle, but you dip it in something and it takes on the properties of that dangerous material. That would be kind of sweet. Paper has a keen edge. I get those paper cuts all the time. He says, I love that, Vince. How about a magical hilt that can form a blade? Yep, absolutely. I must have I said that before it popped up in the chat, so I didn't get to see it. Yeah. Ooh. Okay. No paper swords, man. That's dangerous. You get a paper cut above your eye, man, or on the palm of your hand. That sucks. So then, of course, we have new creatures that flow through lava. They live in lava. They leave their larvae in lava. Kind of cool. They're intelligent, but very alien-like. Kind of a large elemental. Pretty dangerous things. Water susceptibility, cold vulnerability, illumination. They spit out lava. We have another nasty creature here called the Inharth. 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 Inharth, I think is good. Lava larvae. LARP lavishly. Stupid. Oh man. Anyway, kind of a Cthulhu-ish styled creature. Um, Not a very high challenge rating, but pretty dangerous creatures. Probably these are probably the larva of other Cthulhuoid creatures that might be down in the Underdark or in this volcanic region or whatever. Anyway, these things hide in acid pools, so it's pretty dangerous for them if you meet them along with their abilities because they have like blood drain, a paralyzing gaze, grasping tentacles, pull you down into the acid. Their eggs are down in acid and stuff, so it's pretty nasty. Um, and then here we have the Apocalypse Engine. Of course, not stealing the Apocalypse Engine gaming rules, but the engine to create blasted lands, to create to destroy your part of your setting, and then have a world in which those things are taking place, like a zombie apocalypse kind of thing, or end of the world or something for your medieval setting, which technically works for modern settings, but yeah. So um, cataclysms, epicenters, you can layer some aspects on top of things. Um, Everything from ash, climate change, shock waves, fumes, heat, lava, pyroclastic flows, um, the increased heat, that kind of things. Blasted land effects for earthquakes, such as like aftershocks, course of destruction, ground displacement, tsunamis, landslides, and avalanches. And then, of course, we have the rules, how it affects the in-world setting. Ignoring cries for mommy is OP. um, so, boom, let's get rid of that. There we go. All right, so we've got like the moderate impact and global impacts and things like that. And just descriptions, like for example, a level 5 is severe impact. This event plunges the world into a winter that lasts 1d4 years. Even tropical climates suffer as the global temperature drops by 8 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Temperature zones are hardest hit, with mass extinctions throughout, starting with plant eaters, followed by predators, and finally scavengers. More than half of the world's species will go extinct. Mass starvation will be rampant. In the far north, sea ice will freeze, allowing species to cross the new territory in search of food. Only subterranean Arctic people will be mostly unaffected. That's if you want to destroy your setting. The paper warrior. Mm-mm-mm. You guys are bad. All right, so your darkness, fumes, ground displacement, how much damage is done, isolating people, shock waves, landslides, the damage they do, avoiding them, lava, tsunamis, athletics checks, and that kind of thing. In a little line that says, "Hey, why don't you check out this other book, like our Aquatic Depths book?" Blasted land random effects. It's a D1. It's a D100 table, but there are a lot of things. So, oh, paper armor. I love the paper armor. Yeah, it's paper armor is a real thing. Um, it's like layered and not lacquered, uh, layered and moistened in layers, and then the paper armors. Yeah. And in the movie Ricochet, prisoners in prison fought with using phone books taped together with duct tape and used that as armor. I think they had like steel pipes and made armor out of phone books, old yellow pages phone books. For you young people, they used to print books that had phone numbers in it, and you used to flip through it alphabetically to find what you wanted. So guys out there, roll a D20 and then a D6, and then I'll tell you what's going on. Let's see what kind of apocalyptic world you have here. Paper armor. I gotta add that in somewhere. Maybe like that's. It doesn't have to be a modern setting. All right, so we got ourselves an 8 and a 3. So for your your post-apocalyptic setting, the harbinger of things to come when a random event happens. So for in this, the following random events can be used as is or as a catalyst for additional stories. The DM can roll a d20 and a d6. There are 5 choices under each heading. The roll of a 6 indicating an original idea for your setting, or rolling twice and combining 2 or more elements within that indicator. So Scott's the first, since Scott had to fill the elevator with the noxious fumes. Boop, 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 boop. The hell did I? Oh, Vince. What the hell? My brain. Sorry, I saw. Fuck. Whatever. Anyway, divine appearance. It's actually Vincent's role, but what the hell? Divine appearance. This cataclysmic. What? Oh, I found a mistake. Fuck. Okay, this cataclysm has revealed the face of one of the gods in the clouds, the land, or in fire. This sight causes a fundamental change in worldview for many individuals, even the odds of any player character being affected by this event. For the next few months, omens, signs, and portents point towards this divinity. The viewer is granted one of the following. The viewer is granted the guidance spell cast upon them. So they see the gods in the clouds, or some other thing. Maybe the ground splits open and they see a god down in there. Proust is 18 and 4. It's going down. I don't want to go too fast because unfavored element, volcanic region. Yeah. Wave of illness. The region has a disease overcome the population. Use any one or more of the following. You roll. You said a 4. Short-term madness. So, like we have cackle fever, sewer plague, sight rot, short-term madness. Open up your book, roll for some short-term madness, and it's affecting the population. Pretty nasty. Finally, I get it right this time. Scott rolls a 15 and a 3. So go back up. Sudden aggression. There we go. Normally docile pets, farm animals, and small scavenger creatures become agitated, destructive, and aggressive. 3, docile farm animals run mad. So you can use this table to predict or overlay strange happenings in your world if you want to put it down the path of a great apocalypse. Who says I like it? Or rangers' pets. Yeah, like mounts become uncontrollable. I tried to tend not to, despite the fact of affecting player characters, I tend to stay away from specifically pointing out specific class or class features or like background features or specific players. Mad cows. Hell cow suddenly forms his army. You'll never milk me again. We just milked the cow and it came out black. Pour some black milk into some coffee. That'd be awesome. The milk is alive. We're milking out black ooze, black pudding as we speak. Blood milk. Oh, it's nasty. Oof, oof. Why did the chicken cross the road? To kill you. Anyway, sorry. So anyway, Blasted Lands, the black chicken from Stardew Valley. I think that's the end. Yeah, that's the end. Look at them. They're taking the dead away, carting the dead. No. Cows that give oozes instead of milk. Hey, GNU, what's going on? Gnarlston, GNU. No good news. Like, it's a gray space coaster. Off we go. Get on board, step inside. We're going on a magic ride. We're going to the other side where only blood milk exists. Because you will die from drinking the blood milk of the mad cows. Oh, chickens like cockatrice eggs. Ow. Ooh. Ooh. Could you? Okay. Player character goes find strange egg. Sees strange egg open. Cockatrice comes out of strange egg. Player character kills cockatrice, looks around and sees a coop filled with thousands of chickens laying eggs. Oh man, that would. That would actually legit be horrifying. Yes. Oh, that's sweet. That is sweet legal information. All right. The next adventure, we got a horror farm. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, you thought the pig was going to the slaughter. The slaughter is coming to you, brought to you by the pig. Um, anyway, I don't know why horror has to use that voice. In a world where the farm animals have gone mad. You thought Animal Farm was terrible. Anyway, guys, let me get rid of this. Let me stop sharing. Bam. So, hello. I'm back in, kind of to the side. Anyway, guys, thank you for joining me. Just want to talk about that's just one of many environments or something. Using the environment, using how I think of using the environment, give you guys hell a ton of options. Sure, I'm promoting the book, but I'm not just promoting that book. I'm promoting the idea of the concept of what the book is about. Um, you can pick and choose and layer small aspects of the environment until you get used to it. Now, of course, one big problem is someone will say, "Well, this is complicating everything," and my answer to that is if you take away one creature and you add in one element of the environment, you've replaced one complication with another. So you could, instead of having 16 methods, how about just 4 methods and then a dangerous environment and then layer it that way? Of course, the one question would be, well, what CR level is the environment? And my answer to that is, I don't know. No, CRs don't particularly work very well anyway. And if the environment can be both used and abused, used for and against them, it kind of washes. So, and getting used to using the environment and balancing how the environment is used as a layer, as a puzzle, as a trap, as an obstacle, as a dramatic challenge, creating dynamic situations. You guys can have a ton of fun. Yeah, Vincent says CRs don't work at all. Not really. Your best CR tool is creativity. Not every creature wants to kill things. Not every creature is going to stay and fight to the death. Not every creature is there to kill something. Maybe it's there to steal or intimidate, or like I made that example before. You're surrounded by 8 ogres, and you're like, man, I'm probably going to kill my players. So one ogre steps forward and is like, cracks his knuckles, like, don't worry about this, pals. I got this. Don't worry about it, boss. Hey, boss, I got this. Yeah, you guys stand back. Um, Knowledge of the rules and the capabilities of your PC's trumps CR calcs every time. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you just make an example, if you know your players have no way to resist psychic damage, and you throw in a ton of psychic creatures, then you're overbalancing it. Whereas if your players are hyper resistant to like fire, and you throw in a bunch of fire creatures, then they're not going to have as much of an effect, it's perfectly fine to do that. Let them have a ton of resistance against fire or poison or something, and throw a bunch of creatures at them that have that. So to let them shine, to say, hey, I made a decision to get fire protection. This is cool. Now I'm resistant against the fire elementals. But maybe when they fight the frozen elemental, it's just different. You know what I mean? And besides, we all can change the hit points. You can change them on the fly if you want to. If not, no big deal. You're not going to run out of creatures. Open up the book and just pick some more. It's not a big deal. If you trounce your players, every creature doesn't want to kill the PCs. You always have them. The creature didn't kill Luke Skywalker on Hoth. He stuck his feet up in the frozen ceiling because he was going to eat him later, which gave Luke Skywalker the chance to make a skill roll, because he just learned some new force abilities, and he went up a level, and he got to cut himself down and cut the arm off of a creature, and that kind of stuff. So with Scott, yeah, GNU says, yeah, you should build encounters for your party, not for a target number abstracted from their levels. Honestly, like Vince was saying, if you're a smart player, sometimes your level doesn't mean anything. Sometimes you're just a brilliant player and you're able to come up with ideas that just, I don't want to say trounce the encounter, but you know, if a player says a, a dire bear comes to attack the party, the ranger says, I'm going to play dead. Does that mean you just rolled a hit, or do you go, you know what, bears don't attack, and he is a ranger, he knows what he's doing. Oh, okay, the bear stands over you and growls and then walks over top of you and walks away, right? That's a choice you can make as a GM. I'm being very generalized, right? You can add die rolls in there if you want. You can add some nature or survival skill checks in there if you want, but it wouldn't matter what level the ranger is or how many hit points the bear is if the player outsmarts the situation, allowing you as the GM to give them the spotlight or change the dynamic or what have you. Scott Post says, apparently my monsters, they hear but don't see, yet are scarier. They often run a lot. Half my wandering encounters, I just describe sounds of some sort and see what happens. Yeah, you can do that too, man. And you know what? Players think they hear something, they start talking, they're like, I bet it's this thing, and no, I bet it's this other thing, and you have zero idea, and you're writing down notes like, you know what, he said it's going to be a cockatrice, let me write that down. So anyway, guys, thanks for joining in. Yeah, is this a little bit of self-promotion? Sure. Also, it's just my opportunity to be like, hey, listen, this is my passion, this is kind of my day, for me, by me. Not that I wouldn't mind anybody joining in. I have an excellent group of co-hosts out there, but I am passionate about using the environment because it is something that I used in my gaming experience from actually running superhero games, not Dungeons and Dragons games, because all my players kept killing my bad guys because they were murder hobo superheroes. So I kind of half forced them to start saving people's lives and stuff. Vince says, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow, man, dude. Yeah, absolutely. We'll be on Future Fridays. Please join us tomorrow for that. I'm kind of changing the way I'm advertising the channel a little bit. So yesterday I did a post in a number of the Facebook groups I'm with. So once a week I will be posting a week's worth of videos and listing them in the details, just because it's a little bit easier for me, because with my chats tending to go a little bit longer, I'm off for the week. I have family in from out of town, but really, Kitty, right now, thank you. Yeah, I love you too. Whatever. Yeah, I'm going to start doing it that way so that people can say, oh, here's the channel, and then just list the five ones, because it's very difficult for people to keep up with a minimum of an hour live stream per day. You just can't keep up with it. But with having different subjects and different things going on, you don't really need to, it's not like reading a book. You have to watch each video to keep up with the chapter. Someone can just tune into what they want, and so I'm going to start advertising it that way. Yeah, put a link in the doobly-doo. Yeah, so that will be the link to this book called Blasted Lands. A smart person would actually have the physical book near me. A physical link to that book, link to the other books will be in the doobly-doo down below, as well as the other contact information for my co-hosts and things like that. So guys, thank you very much. I'm powering down just a little bit. I love interacting with other people, so that kind of moves me. So when my co-hosts are on, despite the fact that I kind of annoy them by over talking them quite a bit, they feed me a ton of energy. Nelson, Infinite Role Play, Vincent, RP Gamer, check out Darius Jonah's channel as well, RP Gamer's channel, Infinite Role Play, Vincent's up and coming. He's sells himself short a little bit, so we're going to bring him into the fold as well, and hopefully we'll find others, make ourselves a little bit of our own conclave, our own network of individuals and creators. So guys, thank you very much. I'm going to let you go so you can actually enjoy your day instead of listening to my ass all the time. I will see you tomorrow for Future Friday, where we talk about science fiction and everything related to that, specifically astrocitas. I have to say it like that. I think this is probably like my 30th different pronunciation of that setting. But we'll talk about that and science fiction in general. I love futurism. I love science fiction. I love talking about aliens and technology and all those kind of things. So that's my other passion. Apparently, many people out there love those settings too. So guys, I'll see you tomorrow, and thank you for joining me.